Thank you for coming to check out my project. Um, First, let me say real quick that this is not meant to take the place of Filter Blade or any of the other filters out there. Particularly, the other big one I used was Fat Stupid Hobbits filter. I think I used a couple other ones when I first started, but when I was a new player, I definitely had some issues with both of those filters, and I talked to both of their developers, and didn't get a lot of. I'm going to say this. They both heard what I was saying, but neither of them were going to change. So I knew at some point I was going to have to take matters into my own hand and try this myself. And so here I am. Let me bring up a little note here just to go through the four main reasons why I'm doing what I'm doing and what's different about this tool. So number one, it's super simple for new players. No clutter, reduced clutter. The other filters I just mentioned, one of the things that is different, they include a lot of stuff that is for crafting and for racing, and for people who are focused on particular builds. Trying to find items that are good for your build, but removing a lot of that stuff from those filters is difficult for a new player or confusing. And then not doing it is also confusing, because then you got stuff dropping on the ground and you think it might be worth something, and you pick it up and spend, half an hour trying to sort through your loot filter or sort through your stash tab, trying to figure out what's what and why it might be valuable, only to find out that maybe it's not, or it was picked up because it was maybe valuable to somebody else but not to you. Anyway, so the second thing is universal tiers and only one color per item. So, for example, with Filter Blade, one of the issues that I had with them that I talked to them about was that their tiers are not universal, meaning they've got like 12 tiers for currency, but like only maybe 4 tiers for jewels. So it's impossible to do a one-to-one translation, shall we say, of setting up your filters so that all tier 1 items have the same color, all tier 2 items have the same color. You can't really do that. You can get close, but there's some gaps there. The one color per item thing kind of goes back to what I was saying about the race items and solo self-found and crafting. Some of the filters I used would use a different different color for the text, different color for the background, different color for the border, and each of the 3 different colors could mean different things on different items, and sometimes combinations could be different depending on what the items were, and that's just way too much for a new player. At least it was for me. And I figure if I felt like that, then there's probably other people that feel the same way. Number 3, tiering based on items or pricing from PoE.Ninja. Filter Blade has incorporated this since I came back to the game, so this isn't unique, but it was something that I wanted to keep in mind as well. Number 4, standalone program that anybody can run. So this does use Python, so you'd have to have Python installed, but you could run it if you wanted. I'm also going to make the filters available on GitHub, so you don't have to run the program if you don't want to. You could just download the filter and use that. And last, I'll just say, really, this is it's still in alpha phase, bordering on beta. I have worked out a lot of the kinks, but I'm sure that there's still a couple issues left, and that's really what I want help with, is the play testing to help me find the last few things that need to be fixed. So when you download it, this is what you get, and if you double click on that and you have Python installed, then you get this. I'm just going to hit generate filter, and you'll see in the back here it's going to start doing what it does. And before I talk about this, actually, let's go over to the GitHub and I'll look at this picture here first, and we'll talk about the colors. So it follows the rainbow for most of the stuff. It's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, or violet. Brown is below red in value, and above purple is, I think they call this cyan, pink, and white. Gray items, if you've been playing long enough, you know what this is probably. It's for unique items that share common base types that the filter can't recognize, and so you have to stop and look at it to see what it is, whether or not it's valuable. Coming back to this, I will say that for most new players, this should not even be touched. There is a way to override item values for particular items, which I'll show in a minute. So probably new players will never even need to touch this, And if they do get to a point where they feel they need to touch this, then maybe it's time for them to graduate to Filter Blade or some of the other filters. Next to that, we've got minimap icon legends, and it says, what each minimap icon references. Because this is still running, I can't go to the second tab, so I'll scroll down here. It's over here too. This stuff on the second tab is stuff that a new player may want to end up playing with at a certain point. The top one is filter strictness. So I mentioned that there are 10 tiers with colors, and then tier 11 is for gray items. So if you want to change the strictness of your filter, you can use this slider to affect that. So if you had this on 9, it would hide items in tier 10. If you put it up to 7, it's going to hide items in tiers 9, 8, and 10. This next one is for rare items that are not caught in other sections, meaning there are other sections in the filter that will catch influenced items, veiled items, fractured items, and synthesized. Any items that are not caught in other areas, this is your slider to cut those off. So as you get further into the game, you'll want to bump this up to hide more of the lower item level rares. This next slider is a breakpoint for unique items. This is relating to those gray items. I'm going to make a separate video to discuss this because it's a little more complex, and I want to focus on that because it's going to have 3 different effects depending on the value of the item that you and where you put the slider. These last 4 are just, check boxes, yes or no. Yes or no, whether or not to show the gray items at all. Normal or magic 6-socket items, normal or magic 5-socket items. Note socket, not link. 6 link items will always be shown, but 6-socket items are not necessarily worth looking at. They're, 7 jewelers, I think. 5-socket items might be of interest if you're early in the league, giving that as an option too. This +4 to all tiers for league start, this is just sort of a feel-good thing. If you're at league start and everything is dropping and it's brown, red, or maybe orange, and you just want, some brighter, happier colors, you can click that and it'll make things look a little nicer. See how this is doing. Okay, so it's done. So it has spit out a filter here, which you can then, if you are a new player and you're looking at this and you're trying to figure out where to put it, you would come up here to Options, Game, open up this folder, and paste it into here. And then once you do that, then you should be able to select it from here. As far as overriding the filter settings, so if you come into the scripts folder, these CSV files, these have been, the first one is purely what was downloaded from poe.ninja, and then the other ones are me working on that data so that I can eventually come up with the filter that gets output. And I do it in stages here just so if there is a problem, it helps me, troubleshoot. But for this second to last one where it says assigned values, if you were to open that up, you could put stuff in this override column and it will override whatever tier you have set or whatever tier is selected based on the value. For me, the easiest way to do that is I highlight the first row, go to data and filter, and then filter based on tier. And I know Google Documents has something similar to this. So for example, if you wanted to select tier 6 and only see that, and, maybe change these to a couple other values, you could do that. And then save, yes. Now, you only have to do that the first time that you set up the overrides. You would come back to this and hit generate filter again. And what it's going to do now is it's going to go back through and do that same process, except when it gets to your overridden items, it's going to pay attention to the override field instead of the tier field. But you should not need to do that an additional passes. Like, say you were to do this the first time you set it up, create an override, and then a day later you want to update your pricing, you should be able to just hit generate filter, update the pricing, and it should respect and remember your override settings. So the override only needs to be set up once. Last thing I wanted to talk about is the the filter file names. So on the GitHub page down here at the bottom, I've got a legend on how to interpret these file names. I wanted to do this for a couple different reasons. Number one, always struggling to try to figure out what to name a filter file in order to remember what I had hidden or shown in the filter was a bit of a pain in the butt. And then trying to remember what I had named them later after the fact was a pain in the butt. And this way I figured, this will always let me know exactly what it is just by looking at it. So using this legend, I can see that this is a 315 league. 1 means that it is not standard; it's league. 8 is the strictness. The next couple of ones are the Boolean values of yes or no to show different things. 76 for the rare item cutoff, and 10 for the unique item breakpoint, which I'll talk about in that other video. So you can see real quick once you get to learn the pattern what the filter it contains just by looking at it. So you can flip back and forth between filters easily. The other benefit to this, and probably the bigger benefit really, is that you can update the pricing in a filter without having to how can I say this? So when you come in here to your item filters, once you've copied over the new filter to the file location, the file name stays the same. So all you have to do is click the refresh button. And if you don't have the PoE game client open when you do this, you don't have to do anything at all, because when it opens, when you open the game, it's just going to look to read the last file filter that you used, and it's going to see the same file name, but it's not going to, it won't know that the values have changed. So it's just going to run normally. So I think that was everything I wanted to say for the intro. If you can help me play test this, come up here and open up some issues. Let me know what the issues are if you find any, and I'll see if I can fix them. Thanks.